Well, today we are here in the beautiful Laurel Highlands, and I'm standing right outside of the Pennsylvania Game Commission Southwest Regional Headquarters office. And our show today is going to be so exciting, I can barely contain myself. Hi, welcome to Around the Town with Marilyn Forbes. We are actually going on an exciting adventure today, and I am really thrilled that we are able to be a part of this. I, ahead of time, want to thank the Game Commission for letting us tag along on a bear tagging adventure. So this is going to be a great show, a one-in-a-lifetime experience. We hope you enjoy it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, now we are going to be talking with Joe Sevko, who is a conservation officer with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Joe, thank you very much for being on our show.
We're glad that you could come along today. It's a unique opportunity, and we think you'll have a good time.
Oh, well, I'm really excited. As I said, I can barely contain myself. So, okay, now tell us a little bit. What are we going to be doing today?
This afternoon, we're going to be going in on a bear research project where we actually go into a bear den where there's a female denned up for the winter, and she has given birth to cubs in that den, and we're going to go in and we're going to physically sedate her, and we're going to take her out of the den, and we're going to check her physical condition and well-being, and then we're also going to monitor the cubs that she has with her. We're going to look at the size and sex ratio of those cubs. We're going to weigh them, sex them, age them, and give them an ear tag to identify them. And our agency veterinarian's going to be with us, and our black bear biologist for the state, plus a couple conservation officers are going to be along on the excursion.
Now, they're just going to be there just to check to make sure everything's okay, make sure she's okay, the cubs are okay, and just kind of monitor the whole thing?
This is an annual thing that we do with bears. We have a certain amount of bears every year that we capture in the summertime for nuisance complaints and also for research work. And those bears, if they meet certain criteria, if they're at least 140, 150 pounds and female, then they can safely sustain a pregnancy and carry a birth off for that year. So if we don't have a radio telemetry collar on them, then we're going to affix a radio telemetry collar on them when we process them. Okay. When we initially catch them in the summertime, if we caught them on a nuisance complaint, we would obviously catch them in a culvert bear trap. And what we would do would be sedate them or put them to sleep, and then we would take them out, sex them, age them, weigh them. We would give them an ear tag and a tattoo which had corresponding numbers on, which would kind of act like our Social Security number. Oh, okay. Because no two of us have the same Social Security number, we're going to give those bears different numbers so that we can identify them from one another. Oh, okay. And then all that information that we have from that bear is going to go into a computer data bank so that we can pull that up at any time, and we'll have the life history of that bear. And in the event that bear would be harvested by a man or woman in the hunting season, we can provide all that information to the successful hunter. Okay. Now that's really good for research because we have that data bank, and if that bear is equipped with a radio telemetry collar, then that gives us the ability to be able to track her in the winter months and to go in and do the bear den work with her cubs. So it's a big benefit for us to be able to do that.
Now, you said you have about 16 or so bear in your area. This is done all over the state, though, correct?
Right. This is done statewide, mainly in the areas where there are bear populations. So that would be, in the Appalachian Mountain Ranges through the Southwest, Southeast, North Central, Northeast and Northwest areas of the state where there are bear populations.
Now, what is your area?
We're the Southwest region here, and from this office in Bolivar right here, we take care of 10 counties.
Oh my, really?
Right.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a big, we have like 27, 28 officers that work out of this, plus a land management contingent, plus the regional office staff. We also have deputies. We have volunteer hunter ed instructors. We have student interns that work for us, plus the region office support staff that's here with us, and our dispatchers, and all the people that make things run behind the scenes.
A lot of people. It takes a lot of people to make it happen.
Sure does. Yep.
Okay, now, first of all, we're going to start you way at the beginning because we tagged the bears. Mm-hmm. How do we locate them again? And how did you find the den that we're going to be visiting today?
When we do bear work, if we're working with female bears, we use radio telemetry.
Okay.
And radio telemetry is nothing more than a radio transmitter and a battery that's encased in this little can on here, this waterproof can. And that transmitter acts like a radio station, like KDKA. It transmits. The only thing is, this transmits 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and the battery in it will last probably 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
And it transmits all the time. Now the antenna is sewn into the collar itself.
Oh, okay.
And then what we have to do is we have to physically fit this around the neck of the bear.
Okay.
And to be able to do that, we can cut this at different intervals, and we can actually make it fit the bear's neck, whether we have to make it smaller for some bears or bigger for other ones.
Okay.
And then along with that, we also include a biodegradable leather link in there. In case some reason that transmitter would fail, this biodegradable leather link will deteriorate after about 1.5 years, and the leather will crack and the collar will fall off. So we don't have a bear walking around with a choker on its neck that we can't find.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
And what we do with this is each one of these transmitters has its own unique frequency or signal that it transmits on. And if we have a receiver, which we have here, we can turn the receiver on, and you can actually hear the signal that's coming from that bear collar.
Okay, that's what we're hearing there?
That's what you're hearing, is the transmitting signal that's coming from the bear collar. You're hearing the latest iTunes off of KDKA through the bear collar. Now
Bear music.
Bear music. To make that a little more definitive, we use a directional antenna.
Okay.
And what we can do is we can either fly or we can drive around in a truck with an antenna on the truck, and we can pick this signal up.
Oh.
Once we find the signal, we can get out with this antenna, and we can actually turn this 360 degrees around, and we can find the direction that we get the strongest signal coming from. And then by doing that, we can take a compass bearing on that and a GPS location where we're at. And if we get 2 or 3 of those locations, we can triangulate the approximate location of the bear. So then that enables us to print it on a GPS platform, and we can look at our topo maps, and we can get a pretty good idea where the bear or where the collar is located, I should say.
Hopefully there's a bear
Hopefully
inside.
there's a bear inside it. And then the work starts. You know, we go on foot and we actually take this unit and we walk in and we find the location of the bear wherever it's denned. And those dens can vary. Some bears den in underground rock cavities. Some bears, we had one this morning that just burrowed out a hole in a bank and denned in there. Some of them will den in brush piles, and the majority of the bears that we have will actually den in a brush pile or make a home in a brush pile. So whatever they feel comfortable and safe in that area, you know, that's where they'll call home, and they'll set up their dens.
Now, do they go to this same den year after year, or is it different?
No, as a rule, they won't use the same den year after year, but they will den somewhere in that neighborhood or that vicinity.
Really,
so
they stay pretty local.
yeah, it may be they feel protected there, and it's usually a protected area that's away from the weather, so they're not, you know, they don't have the wind and cold weather blowing right into them there, so they feel safe. So they're going to be somewhere along that ridge or in that immediate area from year to year when they den.
So they're smart then. They know where to
Oh,
go
yeah.
to stay out of the weather and
Yes,
everything.
they are.
Now, we don't know what we're going to find or see today, but
No.
we're thinking, are they new cubs? Is that what
These
you're
would be
thinking with her?
These would be newborn cubs,
Okay.
right?
Which were born.
She would have, the sexual act would have taken place around the 4th of July. That's the
breeding
height
time.
of the breeding season, and I always joke about that when we do workshops. I always tell the people at the workshops that when the fireworks are going off, the bear are smiling and having a good time. So,
So remember the bear this 4th of July.
right. And they undergo what's called delayed implantation, and that means that the egg isn't implanted on the uterine wall until sometime later in October or November. So they really have a short gestation period.
Okay, that was actually going to be my next question.
And then the
Okay.
cubs are born usually from the 1st to the 23rd of February, in the coldest month of the year. They're born in the den while she's in the den, and they're protected. And the female bear is really unique because the females have 6 mammary glands, and 4 of them are located on the upper chest. 2 of them are located in the groin area. And what happens is, if you think about it, when she gives birth, she rolls up in a fetal position. So her head is down close to her knees or her abdomen. And what happens is it creates a furry pouch, insulated pouch in the middle. And no matter which way the cubs turn, they have a feeding station. So the mammaries in the bottom line up directly across from the 4 on the chest. And, they start life, in a warm environment like that. And
they'll be fed.
Right, yeah. Several years ago, we did some thermographic photography on bear dens, and what we found was the warmest portion of the female's body is her mammary glands. So the cubs are instinctively drawn to those warm portions, to a feeding station. And, she has 6 mammaries, so she can actually have 6 offspring and take care of them.
Now, you were telling me earlier, like a new mom will have maybe 1 or 2, and
Sometimes,
they have more as they get older
sometimes
usually?
the newer moms will have 1 or 2 the first time they give birth, but litters of 3 and 4 are real common in Pennsylvania. Our nutritional value of our food and the amount of food resources that we have here, plus the fact that we haven't had a whole lot of really bad winters. It gets warm, it gets, the snow melts, and, there's a lot of food available. So, the bear population takes advantage of that, and the reproductivity is really high in Pennsylvania.
Well, that's good. I was actually doing a little bit of research, and we were talking earlier, and there's like 15,000 estimated now in Pennsylvania.
That's
something
a conservative
like that. Is that
estimate.
conservative?
Yeah, right. We now have bears in the southwest region. We have bears in Allegheny County. In fact, last year there were 3 bears that were legally harvested in Allegheny County, and we know we have bears in Washington and Greene County. The Monongahela River is not an impasse to them. They can swim better than any Olympic swimmer, so they just go right across there if they want to over there.
Now, something else that he and I were talking about that I think is really interesting is the time that you do this now, this time of year, because mom is still sleeping and in her den. She hibernates. So she doesn't eat, she doesn't do anything, correct?
Right. She may wake up from time to time. She's actually in a torpor, and she may leave the den to forage or feed a little bit herself, but she'll come right back to the den, and she will actually move around inside the den, but she has the unique ability to recycle the urine and everything, and she's self-sufficient in there, for the winter months that she's denned. And then she takes care of the cubs, and the cubs stay and remain in the den with her. She won't take them out until later on, the end of April or May. She'll take them out of the den and start little short transitions out of the den with them to get them out of the den, and then she'll eventually leave the den site, and every night she'll make a nest in the woods someplace in a brush pile or whatever, and she'll, like a camper, she'll spend the night with her kids in the woods.
Well, now, when they leave, the first-time cubs, when they leave this spring, about approximately how much do they usually weigh average?
Right now, today, when we go into these dens, those cubs that we look at are probably going to weigh somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 pounds.
Oh, that's small.
Yeah, but you consider her butterfat content of her milk is probably up around 23, 25%. So, we're all worried about 2% milk in our weight. They're not worried about it. They put weight on very rapidly. They grow very quickly. When they come out of the den, they're probably going to weigh 10 to 12 pounds, 14 pounds, something like that.
And then they'll hang out with mom.
They'll hang out with
summer.
mom all summer, and she'll teach them. She'll gradually wean them off of her milk and get them into hard foods. And depending upon the season of the year, what's available, she'll initially be feeding on grasses and grazing, and then she'll be turning over rocks and getting things like insects and ants and grubs and things like that. Maybe find a beehive and get into some honey.
Oh, and so they really do that, huh?
Oh, yeah. And then as the season progresses, there'll be berries that become available in the woods, and she'll move into those areas and feed on them. And then certain mass-producing trees, acorns, they'll move into those areas and feed on acorns. And then if she can supplement her diet with farmer's crops, You know, they can get into apple orchards and, you know, get into cornfields and things like that. And that's where the problems exist, because they don't know when to stop and they get in there and they cause a lot of damage for farmers.
And that's when
So,
they can be nuisance bears. That you were
right,
talking
and that's
about.
one of the reasons why we trap them in the summertime, is to help the farmers and help the general public with those bears that are what we call nuisance bears. And then we relocate them to another area where they're not going to be a problem.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anything you wanted to add today on what we're going to do,
No,
or
we
hopefully
just, you
do?
know, hope you guys, I hope we have a good den for you up
Yeah, I'm
there, and
excited.
hope we can get to it. We had some significant snowfall on the mountain last night, so we'll be
yeah, I'm
using our
I'm
four-wheel
dressed.
drive trucks, and
Well, that's
you
a,
seem to be dressed
yes,
for
I'm
it,
ready.
so
I've got my gloves and my hat, and we're rugged, so we're ready to go see if we can find some bear.
good deal.
Okay, now we're up on top of the mountain. We have to be very quiet because the game wardens behind me are in the process of going, and hopefully they're going to find a bear in the den that's back there and not just a collar. We're going to have to wait here for a little bit. They're going to go back. If she is there, they're going to tranquilize her, and once she is down and out, hopefully we can go back and see some cubs. So stay with us. Well, as Joe told us, as it happens sometimes, she took off whenever she got darted, and they're out looking for her right now. But this is the den she was at. This is her little nest. No cubs, but you can see it almost looks like a bird's nest, really. And then they were showing us too here on the tree behind. She actually took some of the bark off, and she helped to put that down to get her settled down. But like I said, it looks almost like a nest, and that's where she was. They say she's pretty big. They think she's around maybe about 300 pounds. So they're off looking for her now. Maybe we'll be able to get a picture of her whenever they find her and bring her back. Okay, well, we found her. Or they found her. Not too far. It seems like a far walk because it's high snow and hard to get through, but they did a good job. Here she is. She's down, and we're going to be talking with, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. We're going to be talking with Travis Anderson, who's going to be telling us a little bit about what they're going to be doing with her now. Hi, Travis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
That's what we're going to be doing now.
Obviously, when we tranquilized her, she got up and moved from the den. We were able to successfully get 2 tranquilizer darts in her, and she went probably a quarter of a mile before the tranquilizer took effect. It takes about 15 minutes for it to take effect, so obviously a bear can travel a long ways in that short amount of time, but she doesn't have any cubs unfortunately. So what we're going to do is she'll be perfectly fine where she's at. We're not going to take her back to the den. We're not going to carry her back to the den. But our veterinarian gave her a quick health check, looked her over, make sure that she's breathing okay, doesn't have any injuries, make sure that her weight's good, teeth are good. We checked her ear tags. We always put 2 ear tags in bears in case they lose one of them. And we also checked the tattoo. So all that appears fine. And the only thing we really are going to do with her today is exchange her radio collar, put a new radio collar on that fits her properly. So that we can continue to monitor. And next year, if she doesn't get harvested in the hunting season, we can see if she has cubs next year. She weighs about 280 pounds, so she's a really healthy bear. She did have a previous injury when she was caught this past summer in her one leg, and it appears to have healed well. So all in all, she's a very healthy bear, and hopefully next year, if she doesn't get harvested by hunters, that she'll be bred, and we can come back up and she'll have cubs.
Now you have a cover over her eyes.
We have a blindfold over her eyes. Even though they're under sedation, the bears can still see and hear what's going on around. They can hear us talking. So if we make it dark, it keeps the animals calmer and it allows them to stay sedated longer.
Okay.
And they can't notice us moving around. And it's better for not only the bear's health, but obviously it allows us to be back here and work on her longer and be safe while we're doing it.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I don't hear anything.
Keep waiting.
Oh, I hear it. Oh, it is like a double. Is that normal? I mean, that's really. Oh, that's cool. Now, about how old do you think she is?
I'm not sure if I know how old she is. Her teeth are in good shape, but we don't really know. I'm not sure. One of the other officers.
We have it recorded. We just don't.
We just didn't carry that with us.
Memory right now.
I'm sorry, no wonder I couldn't hear you. I had this in my ears. Thank you. We're talking now with Mark, the bear biologist, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us what we have the new collar on now here.
Yeah, the radio collars, it's amazing. They have a battery that'll last up to 5 years. So every couple years we do have to change the radio collar, even though they have a long life term. So this particular radio collar will due to expire in the next year. So we have put a new radio collar on her so we can continue to monitor. The blindfold, Officer Travis mentioned that that's to keep the light off their eyes. It also keeps the dirt and the snow out of their eyes.
Okay.
You know, we don't want any debris in their eyes. And when we're ready to go, we'll take one extra step here, and we actually have the ability to reverse the anesthesia. There's another drug that we can administer when we're all ready to go here. Administer that drug, and hopefully this bear will be up on its feet probably before we're back to the truck.
Okay, so that'll like speed it up a little bit
Yep.
then. So then should we run when we're leaving?
No, I think we're safe. Yeah.
Okay, just a pour. Okay.
Normally we wouldn't do that. We'd want the bear to wake up nice and slow while we're gone. But because there's no cubs, because there's nothing to tie this bear to this spot, we'll just go ahead and reverse her and let her come up quicker than we normally would. Yeah.
No, actually, something we didn't talk about was we were actually here a couple days ago trying to do this, and the same thing happened. The bear ran. Now but she had cubs, so you folks had to carry her back, and she was quite hefty and was quite far.
Yeah. I mean, we are interrupting this bear's day here quite a bit with the sedation process and visiting the den and everything else. So if a bear does run out of the den, it's our responsibility to do our best job to put that bear back in its den, back with its cubs. And so on that particular day, we actually attempted to carry that bear back to its den. It was too far to carry it, so we ended up building it a new den about halfway back.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then brought the cubs to her. And
you brought an orphan cub that day too, huh?
There was one, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. That's good. I'm glad you're able to find a place to place it. And she had quite a little litter then, about 5, wasn't it?
She had, let's see, four of her own, and we added one. That's correct, 5.
Almost a Brady bunch.
So again, we are subjecting this bear to a certain amount of activity that the normal bear wouldn't go through, and by putting a radio collar on it. So we need a good reason to be doing that, and there actually are 3 reasons why we radio collar bears. The first is we want to be able to find the dens in case we have orphan cubs. We want to be able to find other dens out there that have cubs so that we can add those orphans as kind of into a surrogate family. You can't just go out in the woods and find a hibernating bear. You need a radio collar to guide you, so that's one reason. Another is we want to assess reproduction. Black bears are hunted in Pennsylvania, so we want to have good information about what the population is doing, what type of reproduction is occurring annually, how many cubs are being produced, how many females produce litters, how often do they do that, at what age do they start, all those types of pieces of information. So to gain that, we have to go to the dens in the wintertime and monitor reproduction. The fact that this bear has no cubs this year is something useful to us. And the third reason is it just gives us a chance to assess the health of the animal. And that's why our veterinarian, Dr. Cottrell, had a chance to look this bear over, actually get his hands on the animal, feel what kind of condition the animal is in, and give it a general physical. So that's the 3 reasons, the 3 primary reasons we radio collar bears, and that's what brought us here today.
It's wonderful, and she has a good bill of health. She's thumbs up
Yep.
and ready to go,
Yep,
and
she's a typical-
hopefully next year.
Yep, she is a very typical female bear for Pennsylvania.
Do you have any idea, this particular bear, did she have cubs last year? Do you guys have any knowledge of that? Or?
She was captured this previous summer, so
Okay, so she's a new capture. Okay, all right, I was just curious.
She did have an injury on her front left elbow this past summer, and that was, again, one of the things we looked at today, how that injury had healed, and it looks to be fine.
Good.
But other than that, we don't have much history on her because she's only worn a collar for about 7 months, something like that.
Okay, so maybe then next year you'll find her again.
Yep.
And
I mean, we have some bears that have been wearing radio collars for 10, 12 years or more.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so we actually have some bears now who we handled their mothers in the past. So we had their mothers who were radio collared. We tagged those cubs. Those cubs went on to produce more cubs, and we have several generations of bears now radio collared that we've
that's
monitored for
excellent.
years.
That's
Yep.
excellent. What a great educational tool. Okay, well, Mark, thank you. Thank you again to everybody.
My pleasure.
Well, folks, that was an adventure. Trekking back in the woods through the snow was an adventure itself. But getting to see a bear up close and personal like that is a one-in-a-lifetime experience. Sorry, no cubs today, but maybe maybe we'll try again next year. The game commissioners actually went out about 8 times this week, went to different dens in the area. Some they found cubs, some they found moms that ran with cubs, and today we found an unmom that ran, but she's in good shape. And I do want to really extend a big thank you to the Game Commission for allowing us to come with them today. What they do here is wonderful. We have to thank them for the education that they bring us on the black bear, for the monitoring of the black bear, and most of all, making sure that the little orphan cubs do have some place to go. So we hope you enjoyed the show. I'm exhausted, but it was fun. And as always, keep smiling, keep dreaming, and keep watching.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are featured on Armstrong local programming. Meet fascinating people, visit new places, enjoy special events. Armstrong has our community like no one else. Hometown favorites are available on demand with your Television Plus subscription, or find a complete program schedule at ArmstrongOneWire.com. Local programming exclusively from Armstrong. One Wire, infinite possibilities.